Hey there everyone, welcome back to another walkthrough series. In this video we're going to be discussing about reading passage 2, the nature of genius. So once again, reading passage 2, abstract, it can be opinion based, it can be argumentative. So what we see here is we have typically, two kinds of questions. So two types of questions. We have true, false, not given, second, and we have some sort of a choosing beliefs, or what is that? It feels like some sort of another type of multiple choice questions, but here we have to just choose only 5, right? So we have to be really attentive to this, really attentive. Which meaning they gave us how much we have 6, we have 11. Yeah, we have 11. We have 11 beliefs, and only 5 of them true, and only 5 of them are mentioned. This question pretty much requires for us to be, let's say, really attentive to the details mentioned within the paragraph, within the passage. We just really have to be really careful with this. All right, and then we have true, false, not given questions. We have 19th century studies. We have one keyword here, 19th century. All right, so this is something happened here. Okay, and I failed to take into account. To take into account meaning to consider something. 19th century studies of genius lacked both objectivity and a proper scientific approach. A true genius has general powers capable of excellence in any area. The skills of ordinary individuals are in essence the same as the skills of prodigy. So the word prodigy is prodigy means kind of young, right? So young individuals. So yeah, prodigy means pretty much young people. So that's what I believe. Okay, we have prodigies, and then the ease with truly great ideas are accepted, taken for granted fails to lessen their significance, and many more. All right, let's get started. There has always been an interest in geniuses and prodigies. The word genius from the Latin gens, family, and term genius meaning begetter comes from the early Roman cult of a divinity as the head of the family. Of course, we know the word begetter means someone who creates something. The word begetter means someone who creates something. All right, so again, please highlight it normally. Thank you. Okay, there we go. And a cult of a divinity. So we know that a cult is with something that has become very popular, and popularity of divine. So the word divine is a quality, having the quality of God or like a God. So we have to know that as well. In its earliest form, genius was concerned with the ability of the head of the family and the paterfamilias, all right, to perpetuate himself. Gradually, genius came to represent a person's characteristics, and thence, the word thence is a really old form of saying following that, or from that place. An individual's highest attributes derived from his genius as a guiding spirit. Today, people still look at stars or genes or something like that, astrology or genetics, in the hope of finding the source of exceptional abilities or personal characteristics. All right, so this is a really good paragraph about just introducing pretty much the passage for us. All right, the concept of genius and gifts has become part of our folk culture, and attitudes are ambivalent towards them. So they're like attitudes, some sort of a beliefs. We envy the gift and mistrust them. In the mythology of giftedness, it is popularly believed that if people are talented in one area, they must be defective in another. All right, it's popularly believed. It is saying something for us. Popularly believed. It says beliefs, 5 of these beliefs. So one thing most of the students, when they're when they are actually doing a reading passage, or just conducting, or just practicing them, sometimes they don't really understand the word belief. Belief is when somebody believes something is true, or like strongly believes. There is a strong faith. You believe that something exists or is true. Okay, so they're saying that people in one area, they must be defective in another. So The word, it is popularly believed that if people are talented in one area, they must be defective in another. That means they are unable to be talented in all areas, right? This is defective in another. So do we have anything related to here? Okay, we truly gifted people are talented in all areas. Their genius must be exhausted. Gifted people should use their gifts. The genius appears once in every generation. Okay. And no, we don't have it. That intellectuals are impractical. That prodigies burn too brightly too soon and burn out. There we go. So the prodigies, the young people, youngsters or young generation, they get too tired very fast, which means exhausted. So if we find and know that talents of geniuses are soon exhausted. So this is the top number one question. Okay, that gifted people are eccentric. The word eccentric is it's a really popular word. I just don't really remember. The word eccentric is maybe it is something like it. Is this a noun or this an adjective? I think it is. Eccentric means something like strange, I believe. So like it's really strange people. That gifted people are strange. So that gifted people are strange, eccentric. So is that true? There. So pretty much we found that. Do we have anything to related to that? Do we have anything? Gifted people should use their gifts. Genius appears once in every generation. Nothing we have. Let's just read it finally. That they are physically weaklings, so that there's a thin line between geniuses and madness. That genius runs in families. That the gifted are so clever they don't need special help. That giftedness is the same as having a high IQ. That some races are more intelligent or musical or mathematical than others. That genius goes unrecognized and unrewarded. That adversity makes men wise, or that people with gifts have a responsibility to use them. Language has been enriched with such terms as highbrow, egghead, blue stocking, wiseacre, know-all, buffin, and for many, intellectual is a term of denigration. There's a really good vocabulary that right there they use. The different kinds of they use different kinds of let's say terms to just pretty much define this really gifted people, and they said that like is a term of denigration, right? So denigration is it's a really unfair way to judge people. All right, so what is it requiring here? So do we have let's pay attention to C. So A, we don't really have it. We just have to eliminate that. What I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna eliminate that. C, gifted people should use their gifts. Did we have that? That they're physically weaklings, that there's a thin line between genius and madness. Okay, these are the same as IQ. I think that's I don't know. They must be defective, that intellectual or self-practical. Adversity makes man wise, or that people with gifts have responsibility to use them. Do we have responsibility to use them? Okay. I think that people with gifts have a responsibility to use them. I think it's some sort of a para. Gifted people should use their gifts. Another one. So do we have a genius appears once in every generation? A genius appears once in every generation. Do we have that? I think we don't have anything related to that. Genius is inherited. Genius is inherited. Okay, genius is inherited. Genius inherited means it came from their parents, like from families. It just passed from one generation to another. So genius is inherited. Okay, we have genius runs in families. There we go. We found that. A genius appears in one in every generation. No, genius can be easily destroyed by discouragement. We have nothing for that. Genius is inherited. Okay, we have this as well. All right. Gifted people are very hard to live with. Did we have anything to live with? Language has been enriched with such terms as highbrow. No. That gifted are so clever they don't need special help. No, we didn't have. So these two things, I'm gonna eliminate it. So, and then the gifted people are very hard to live with. I'm pretty sure that it wasn't actually mentioned here, right? So I'm just gonna eliminate that as well. So people never appreciate true geniuses, and I know that it was just that the genius goes unrecognized. That genius goes unrecognized and unrewarded. Meaning, yes, people have that they don't appreciate it. So that's another answer. We have two more geniuses. Are natural. They're natural natural leaders. Are they natural leaders? More intelligent, musical, mathematical. The gifted are so clever they don't need special help. This is the same as having IQ. No. Natural leaders. There's nothing about being a leader, having any source of leadership. Gifted people develop their greatness through difficulties. I know that the term adversity. I mean, the adverse means. So that adversity makes men wise, meaning the adversity means difficulty, something that causes difficulties, right? So that the difficulties makes men wise. So I think that's another answer for us. So I'm gonna choose that as well. A J. All right. So one thing that's playing a role right now is the vocabulary. Genius will always reveal itself. Genius will always reveal itself. Okay. The concept of genius has become no. Physically weak was line between genius and madness. We actually chose only. So we all should have chose only 5. K, did we have anything? We only chose 5, so that I think pretty much we're not left with anything else. So will it reveal itself? Will it actually reveal itself? It's a really interesting question we have. Okay, but we just have to make sure that we're answering all the questions correct. Genius will always reveal itself. So, but I know that some races, the genius goes unrecognized and unrewarded, and okay, we don't really have that. Okay, we're gonna pretty much skip that, and we're going to go for now true, false, not given. Okay, let's just read more. The 19th century was considerable interest in the nature of genius and produced not a few studies of famous prodigies. Perhaps for us today, two of the most significant aspects of most of these studies or of geniuses are the frequency with which early encouragement and teaching by parents and tutors have had beneficial effect on the intellectual, artistic, or musical development of the children, but caused great difficulties of adjustment. This is a really good thing IELTS loves to do. It's just always play with our nerves, pretty much, informally saying, and a really humorous way of saying. So, but they tend to use these kinds of contradicting signs most of the times, cause great difficulties of adjustment later in their lives, and the frequency with which abilities went unrecognized by teachers and schools. This is telling me something about genius will always reveal itself. Okay, but no, it doesn't really reveal itself. Okay, however, the difficulty with the evidence produced by these studies, fascinating as they are in collecting together anecdotes and apparent similarities and exceptions. So, one thing that I want to highlight is that so this is the word geniuses. So some sort of research. I want to highlight that genius is a frequency system, blah blah blah, and I just really want to highlight until here. And then it says, and they're contradicting over this area after the word but. However, the difficulty, so let's say, however, the difficulty with the evidence produced by these studies, fascinating as they are in collecting together anecdotes and apparent similarities and exceptions, is that they are not what we today call norm reference. In other words, when for instance, information is collated about early illness, methods of upbringing, schooling, etc., we must also take into account information from other historical sources about how common or exceptional these were at the time. So we have the word take into account. So it's a really good vocabulary. I mean, not a good vocabulary, but a sign for us. So like a take into account. Have failed to take into account the uniqueness of the person's upbringing. So yeah, that's pretty much, I believe that is true, because it is once again it is saying, however, the difficulty with the evidence produced by these studies, fascinating as they are in collecting together anecdotes and apparent similarities and exceptions, is that they are not what we call norm reference. So the norm referenced is a word. Norm reference means it's not normally talked, right? So okay, and then they're saying that it's, in other words, when we were when, for instance, information is collated about early illness, methods of bringing schooling, we must also take into account information from other historical sources about how common or exceptional these were at the time. For instance, infant mortality was high and life expectancy much shorter than today. Home tutoring was common in the families of the nobility and wealthy. Bullying and corporal punishment were common at the best independent schools, and for the most part, the cases studied were members of the privileged classes. It was only with the growth of pediatrics and psychology in the 20th century that studies should be carried out on a more objective, if still not always very scientific, basis. All right, so norm reference failed to take into account. They're not norm reference. We must also take into account. Okay, so also it is also saying information from other historical sources about how common exceptions they are. Nobility and wealthy. So studies pretty much failed to take into account education and the health of the children from different kinds of classes, right? Families of nobility and wealthy, bullying and corporal punishment were common at the best independent schools, and for the most part, the cases studied were members of the privileged classes. Okay, so I think that's pretty much true. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna make that as true for us, and I'm going to choose red as usual. 19th century studies of genius lacked both objectivity and a proper scientific approach. Okay. It was only the growth of pediatrics. There we go. It was only the, I think we have the answer here. It was only with the growth of pediatrics and psychology in the 20th century that studies could be carried out on a more objective, if still not always very scientific basis. So in the 19th century, they're saying their research could not be conducted. It could not be done using an objective or scientific way. So that's pretty much. Let's just read that. 19th century studies of genius lacked both objectivity and a proper scientific approach. So once again, it was only the growth of pediatrics and psychology in the 20th century that studies could be carried out on a more objective, if still not always very scientific. So that and not until 20th century. So in 19th century, they didn't have objective or scientific approach. However, in 20th century, they did. So the same text is being said, same thing is stated here. So the answer is going to be true for that as well. So we're going to just put that as true for us as well. A true genius has several powers capable of excellence in any area. We're not really sure about that. Geniuses, however, they are defined, are but the peaks which stand out through the mist of history and are visible to the particular observer from his or her particular vantage point. Change the observers and the vantage points, clear away some of the myths, and a different lot of peaks appear. Genius is a term we apply to those whom we recognize for their outstanding achievements and who stand near the end of the continuum of human abilities, which reaches back through the mundane and mediocre to the incapable. There is still much truth in Dr. Samuel Johnson's observation that the true genius is a mind of large general powers, accidentally determined to some particular direction. We may disagree with the general, or for we doubt if all musicians of genius could have become scientists of a genius, or vice versa. But there is no doubting that the accidental determination which nurtured or triggered their gifts into those channels into which they have poured their power so successfully. Along the continuum of abilities are hundreds of thousands of gifted men and women, boys and girls. Okay, so Dr. Johnson, or Mr. Johnson, I don't know, he said the true genius is a mind of large powers, right? Okay, large general powers, right? Accidentally determined to particular direction, and if we paid attention to the question number 21, a true genius has general powers capable of all excellence in any area. So the thing is, what he's saying, that true something to some particular direction, determined to some particular election. We may disagree with the general, because general, we just take away general for just without all musicians and genius could have become scientists of genius, or vice versa. So he said that we may disagree with the general, or for we doubt if all musicians of genius could have become scientists. We doubt, so we doubt means we go against. We don't really agree with the term they're saying. A true genius has general powers capable of excellence in any area. No, absolutely false. All right, so we gotta take that. Skills of ordinary individuals are in the essence the same as the skills of prodigies. All right, we don't have it. What we appreciate, enjoy, or marvel at in the works of genius, or the achievements of prodigies, there we go, are the manifestations of skills or abilities which are similar to, but so much superior to, our own. But that their minds are not different from our own is not demonstrated by the fact that the hard-won discoveries of scientists like Kepler or Einstein became the commonplace knowledge of school children, and the once outrageous shapes and colors of an artist like Paul Klee so soon appear on the fabrics we wear. This does not minimize the supremacy of their achievements, which outstrip our own, as the sub 4-minute milers outstrip our jogging. To think of geniuses and the gifted as having uniquely different brains is only reasonable if we accept that each human brain is uniquely different. The purpose of instruction is to make us even more different from one another, and in the process of being educated, we can learn from the achievements of those who are more gifted than ourselves. But before we try to emulate geniuses or encourage our children to do so, we should note that some of the things we learn from them may prove unpalatable. We may envy their achievements and fame, but we should also recognize the price they may have paid in terms of perseverance, single-mindedness, dedication, restrictions on their personal lives, the demands upon their energies and time, and how often they have to display great courage to preserve their integrity or to make their way to the top. Genius and giftedness are the descriptive terms of no real substance. We may at best give them some precision by defining them and placing them in a context, but whatever we do, we should never delude ourselves into believing that gifted children or genius are different from the rest of the humanity, save in the degree to which they have developed the performers of their ability. So that is pretty much, they're saying that they're not just gifted, but they have actually worked their way to become a gifted or genius. So we're still left with question number 22. True skills of ordinary individual are in essence same as the skills of prodigies. Okay. All right. So we have to remember that. But I know that achievements of prodigies are the manifestations of skills or abilities which are similar to, but are also much superior to our own. So this means the skills of prodigy are similar to those of ordinary people, but their achievements are much greater, right? So that the manifestations of skills or abilities which are similar to, but so much superior to our own. So they're same to our own, but they have more some sort of achievements. So I think that's the answer is true. Okay, I'm gonna take that. But so much superior means they are higher than us, meaning superior means, of course, being supreme, kind of supreme, but not really, not in a real world context. So much superior to our own. Yeah, of course, that has to be true, definitely. The ease with which truly great ideas are accepted and taken for granted fails to lessen their significance. And I know that there was a pattern. There's a hard one. There we go. But that their minds are not different from our own is demonstrated by the fact that the hard-won discoveries of scientists like Kepler or Einstein became the commonplace knowledge of school children, and the once outrageous shapes and colors of an artist like Paul Klee so soon appear to be fabrics of what we wear. So okay, this does not minimize. Okay, we have the word minimize. There's another synonym for lesson. We have a synonym for a lesson. So pretty much what is that saying? Minimize the supremacy of their achievements, which outstrip our own as the sub 4-minute milers outstrip our jogging. Alright, really interesting question. This does not minimize the supremacy of their children. So great ideas, meaning hard-won discoveries, are accepted and taken for granted. Even school children learn them. However, the importance of these ideas is not lessened. This does not minimize the supremacy. It's not lessened. So the answer is another true. Somehow there are lots of true. I don't know. I'm not a bit concerned sometimes about the answers. There are lots of truths. We only found one false. We haven't found no given yet. Giftedness and genius deserve proper scientific research into their true nature so that all talent may be retained for the human race. But I remember there was nothing of a scientific research, was there? Proper scientific approach. I mean, research. And their true nature so that all talents may be retained for me. I don't know. I haven't really found. I'm not gonna waste my time searching for that. I'm 100% there was nothing about research being conducted against or with gifted or genius people, prodigies. Geniuses often pay a high price to achieve greatness. Do they? That's a really interesting question. Another interesting question. They pay a high price. And it's also, we may envy their achievements and fame, but we should also recognize the price they may have paid in terms of perseverance, single-mindedness, dedication, blah, blah, blah. Of course. Another true. Why? Because geniuses often pay a high price to achieve greatness. High prices are like, but we should also recognize the price they may have paid in terms of perseverance, single-mindedness, 2, dedication, 3, restrictions on their personal lives, 4, the demands upon their energies and time, 5 and 6, and how often they've had to display great courage to preserve their integrity or to make them way to the top. So like a kind of more of like a 6. So this is the answer for us. So that's obviously true. I'm gonna highlight that as red as well. To be genius is worth the high personal cost. Okay. To be genius is worth the high personal cost. So do we have anything out of the personal cost? So restrictions on their personal lives, demands on their time and energy. So it's like it's worth. It's actually worth the reward of becoming a genius. So like to be genius is worth the high personal cost. Um, but I mean, the writer has mentioned here that um, the geniuses may have paid to gain success, to achieve this greatness, maybe to achieve the top notch level. But in terms of personal costs, there's no information for that. I'm just gonna put not given. So, so there you go, guys. We finished all the questions here, and I'm pretty much sure we have done a really great job again. But what we encounter here, we have lots of new vocabularies we will have to learn. We have the word perseverance. Let me just actually remove this highlights and actually say the perseverance, single-mindedness. So just gonna take that. Restrictions on personal lives. No, not that, but we have another different prove unpalatable. This is another good vocabulary, but I'm sure there's I think I know the word unpalatable. So what does it say? Okay, so geniuses encourage our children to do. So we should not. We should note that some of the things we learn from them may prove unpalatable. I think unpalatable is according to my conclusion, by inferring here, by using the method inference, I think this is something that means unpleasant, not unpleasant or hard to accept, right? Hard to accept. That's what unpalatable means. Emulate geniuses, outstrip. So pretty much there are lots of vocabulary we can get from here. And of course, certainly we can use them in our speaking or writing sections or the portions of IELTS. So there you go, guys. We have pretty much finished all the questions. We have done the multiple choice. We have done the true false not given. If you have any questions, you may comment down in the section below. And if you loved it, of course, smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe. And so yeah, thank you very much, guys, for watching, and have a wonderful time.